Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're getting into something huge, the official rulebook that's trying to tame some of the most powerful, high-risk AI out there.
All right, let's get right into it. AI. It's everywhere, right? It's shaping our world. But what happens when it's making these huge decisions? We're talking about things like medical diagnostics, self-driving cars, or even running our power grids. Suddenly, the whole question of safety isn't just important, it's absolutely critical. So how do we actually make sure we can trust these systems?
Well, the European Union thinks it has an answer. To tackle this exact problem, their big landmark AI Act has this groundbreaking requirement right at its heart. It's basically a mandatory safety rulebook, and every single developer of what they call a high-risk AI has to follow it. No exceptions. They can't even get their product to market without it.
Okay, so what is this rulebook? The official name is a Quality Management System, or QMS for short. But honestly, the best way to think about it is like a master safety blueprint for building an AI. And it's not just some piece of paper you file away. Nope. It's a whole process, a systematic way to build safety and quality right into the AI. From the very first line of code all the way to the day it's retired.
So what's actually in this blueprint? What does it demand? You can almost picture it like a pilot's pre-flight checklist, seriously. Step 1, developers have to map out every single potential risk they can think of. Anything that's known or even just foreseeable. Step 2, they've got to guarantee the data the AI is trained on is high quality, super important. Step 3, after it's launched, they can't just walk away. They have to constantly monitor how it's doing. And finally, step 4, they have to keep detailed records of, everything. All right, so let's pop the hood and see what's really inside this thing. We're going to break down a couple of the core safety principles that make this whole rulebook tick. Okay, first up, and this is the absolute foundation of the whole QMS, is a continuous risk management system. And the key word there is continuous. This isn't about just waiting for something to go wrong and then fixing it. No, it's about being proactive, about trying to see problems before they even happen. The rules literally force developers to identify and plan for any risk they know about, and even the ones they can reasonably predict might pop up down the line. And let's be clear, we're talking about really serious stuff here. Just imagine an AI for hiring that just happens to ignore perfectly qualified people from a certain background. Or a medical tool that's just not as accurate for some groups of people. That's real harm. This rulebook makes developers actively hunt for those kinds of biases, patch up security holes, and make absolutely sure the AI isn't going to step all over our fundamental rights.
And this really gets to a core idea here. Safety doesn't just stop the day the product launches. That's a huge deal. The QMS requires a really robust system for keeping an eye on the AI after it's out in the wild. Because let's face it, the real world is messy, right? Things change, and new risks can show up that no one ever could have predicted back in the lab.
So this isn't passive monitoring. It's a really active feedback loop. We're talking developers constantly collecting data on how the AI is performing, actually listening to what users are saying, and, this is critical, if something serious happens, they have to jump on it and investigate immediately. The whole point is to catch these new risks as they pop up and then do something about it. Maybe it's a simple update, or maybe it's something major like completely retraining the AI model.
Okay, but here's where the story gets really interesting. This rulebook didn't just appear out of nowhere, perfect and fully formed. Not at all. It was a long process of evolution, with regulators trying to find that perfect sweet spot. That balance between super strong safety rules and, not killing innovation. If you look at the timeline, from that first proposal back in 2021 to the final version in 2024, you can see this whole story of negotiation, debate, and compromise. It started out as this really rigid, one-size-fits-all concept, but after 3 years of back and forth, it got shaped into something way more balanced and flexible, a framework that's both tough and practical. And probably one of the biggest changes was this. The first idea was that every company would have to build a brand new, totally separate quality system just for their AI. Imagine the headache. But the final rule? It's so much smarter. It lets companies weave these new AI rules into the quality systems they already have for other stuff. This avoids creating this just massive mountain of extra paperwork.
So how did they make it so flexible? It really boils down to 2 key ideas. The first is something called proportionality. Basically, the rules scale to your size.
If you're a tiny startup with one AI tool, your safety system can be pretty straightforward. But if you're a tech giant with tons of high-risk systems, yeah, yours is going to have to be way more complex. And the second idea is that integration we just talked about. It's all about making life easier for companies, say, in healthcare or finance, that are already buried in regulations. They can just build on what they've got.
Okay, so after all that back and forth, all that refinement, what's the bottom line? What does this rulebook actually mean for you and me? Why should we even care? Look, this thing is so much more than just a bureaucratic checkbox. It's really a foundational tool for building trust. For the first time, we have a clear benchmark for what safe AI is supposed to look like. It puts real accountability on the people who create this tech. And by doing this, Europe is basically planting its flag, trying to set the global standard for AI rules. Some people even have a name for it. They call it the Brussels effect. And the payoff for us, for society, it's really tangible. It means we should get more trustworthy AI in those critical areas we rely on every day. Our health, our money. It means when something does go wrong, there are clear lines of responsibility. We know who's on the hook. And maybe most importantly, it's a shield. It helps protect our basic rights from those hidden dangers of biased or just plain unsafe AI. Which brings us to one last big question. By putting together this really detailed, flexible, and comprehensive rulebook for high-risk AI, has Europe just written the global blueprint? Is this the model that the rest of the world is going to follow? I guess we'll have to wait and see.